It's October 26th. The morning light is trying to break through the blinds, but it feels weak, hesitant. Our house, the one my wife Chloe and I bought 3 years ago, has never felt so quiet. It's a heavy, suffocating silence, the kind that presses down on you, making it hard to breathe. Every little sound is amplified. The hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock on the wall, the soft, rhythmic breathing of our dog. Bruno sleeping at my feet. That last sound. That's the only thing keeping me grounded right now. My name is Sebastian Myers. I'm 32 years old, and for the past 72 hours, my world has been spinning on an axis of pure, unadulterated chaos. Yesterday, October 25th, the district attorney's office filed formal charges against my mother-in-law, Eleanor Vance. Felony animal cruelty. Those 3 words still don't feel real. They hang in the air between me and Chloe, a toxic cloud we can't seem to escape. Chloe is sitting across from me at the kitchen table. She's 31, and the stress of the last few weeks has carved faint lines of exhaustion around her eyes. She's staring into a coffee mug, but I know she isn't seeing it. Her focus is a million miles away, lost in a place of betrayal and disbelief. In front of her is a pill organizer and a small kitchen scale. Our new normal. Bruno, our 2-year-old golden retriever, lets out a soft sigh in his sleep. He's the center of this whole nightmare. He's supposed to be a goofy, energetic ball of sunshine chasing squirrels in the backyard or nudging my hand for a treat. But right now, he's a patient. He's recovering from an acute kidney injury, the direct result of being poisoned. Twice. By his own grandmother figure. The vet laid it all out for us. A strict specialized diet to give his kidneys the best possible chance to heal. A cocktail of medications we have to administer with painstaking precision. Chloe handles it with a quiet, fierce determination that both breaks my heart and makes me love her more than ever. She weighs every single gram of his prescription kibble. She carefully opens each capsule, mixing the contents into his food just so. Her hands are steady, but I can see the tremor in her soul. This is her mother's doing. This is the damage her mother caused. Our home, once our sanctuary, now feels like a fortress under siege. We're safe, technically. The day Eleanor was arrested, October 23rd, the very first call I made after talking to the police was to a 24-hour locksmith. Every single lock on every single door was changed. The key Eleanor had, the one Chloe gave her 2 years ago for emergencies and dog sitting, is now just a useless piece of metal. On top of that, there's a temporary restraining order in effect. It's a condition of her bail. Eleanor Vance, age 58, is legally barred from coming within 500 feet of me, Chloe, our property. And Bruno. She can't call. She can't text. She can't show up on our doorstep demanding to be heard. The law has drawn a line in the sand. And yet the feeling of violation lingers. It's like a stain you can't scrub out. Knowing she was in here, in our kitchen, standing right where Chloe is sitting now with poison in her hand and malice in her heart. Chloe finally looks up from her mug, her eyes meeting mine. There's no question in them, no doubt, just a deep, profound sadness. Is it time for his meds? She asks, her voice barely a whisper. I nod. Yeah, I'll get his water. We move like a well-oiled machine, a team united by this crisis. While she mixes the medication into his food, I fill a clean bowl with purified water. We're hyper-vigilant now. No bowl is ever left unattended. Nothing is left to chance. This is the new reality Eleanor has forced upon us. The legal battle is just beginning, but the family battle is already over. The moment Chloe saw the video, something inside her broke. The image of her own mother calmly and deliberately pouring ethylene glycol into Bruno's water bowl. It was an act of betrayal so profound there was no coming back from it. She hasn't spoken a single word to her since the arrest. She's fully estranged. It's me, her, and Bruno against the world. Her loyalty never wavered for a second, but I know the price of that loyalty is a piece of her heart. She's mourning the mother she thought she had. We coax Bruno awake gently. He's groggy, but his tail gives a weak thump, thump, thump against the floor when he sees us. He trusts us completely. He has no idea that a person he was taught to love tried to end his life. He just knows that he feels sick and that we are there to comfort him. He eats his medicated food slowly, then laps up some water. Every swallow he takes is a victory. Every good day is a miracle we're fighting for. After he's done, I take him out to the backyard while Chloe cleans up. I watch him walk stiffly across the grass, his movement still hampered by the pain. This beautiful, innocent creature who we adopted as a tiny puppy 2 years ago, who has brought nothing but joy into our lives. And I think about Eleanor. I think about her excuse, the twisted reasoning she tried to give the police. She was jealous of the attention we gave our dog. She saw him as a replacement for the grandchild she felt entitled to, a diversion of the love and resources she thought belonged to her future lineage. It's pathological. It's sick. To look at this loving animal and see a rival. To decide that the solution to her perceived problem was to end his life in one of the most agonizing ways imaginable. The thought makes my blood run cold. There's a monster in my life, and for years she wore the face of family. Chloe joins me at the back door, wrapping her arms around my waist from behind and resting her head against my back. We stand there for a long time, just watching our dog. The silence between us isn't empty anymore. It's filled with a shared understanding. We survived the initial attack. We uncovered the truth. We set the wheels of justice in motion. We are united, Chloe and I. Our bond, forged over years of love and partnership, has been tempered in this fire and has come out stronger, unbreakable. But this isn't a celebration. There's no joy in this victory. It's a grim, somber confirmation that we did what we had to do to protect our family. The immediate threat is gone. The house is secure. The evidence is airtight. Eleanor will face the consequences. But the scars are going to take a long, long time to fade, for Bruno and for us. Watching him now so fragile and quiet, it's hard to believe that just 2 weeks ago, he was a different dog entirely. It's hard to square the fragile animal I see today with the whirlwind of golden fur he was on the morning of October 12th, before the nightmare began, before we knew there was a monster walking among us. It feels like another lifetime, but it was just 2 weeks ago. October 12th was a Tuesday, crisp and sunny, one of those perfect autumn days. I remember I was working from home, sitting at the dining room table on a conference call, and Bruno, our 2-year-old golden retriever, was in his usual spot lying on the floor by my feet. Every so often, he'd lift his big, goofy head and rest his chin on my knee, letting out a long, contented sigh as if to say, "Are you done yet? Is it time to play?" That was Bruno. He wasn't just a dog, he was a presence, a 4-legged happiness engine. When we adopted him as a puppy 2 years ago, he filled this house with a kind of chaotic joy we didn't even know was missing. His tail didn't just wag, his whole body wiggled with excitement every time we walked through the door. He had this ridiculous habit of stealing one sock from the laundry basket, never the pair, always just one, and carrying it around like a trophy. He was the official greeter for the mailman, the unofficial squirrel patrol for the backyard, and the absolute center of our little world. Chloe and I bought this house 3 years ago, but it never truly felt like a home until Bruno was thumping his tail against the floorboards. That afternoon, after my work was done, we did our usual routine. A long walk through the neighborhood, chasing a tennis ball at the park until he was panting and smiling, that big, goofy golden retriever grin plastered on his face. He was perfectly fine, full of life, full of energy, absolutely 100% normal. We got home, he drank a ton of water from his bowl in the kitchen, and then he collapsed onto his favorite rug for a well-deserved nap. Chloe got home from work a little later and we started making dinner. The house was filled with the smell of garlic and roasting vegetables. It was just a Tuesday, a perfectly normal, beautifully boring Tuesday. The change was subtle at first. Around 7 o'clock, Chloe asked, "Where's Bruno?" And I realized I hadn't heard him in a while. Usually, the second he hears the clatter of plates, he's in the kitchen, positioning himself strategically for any potential dropped morsels. But there was silence. I found him in the living room, still on his rug, but he didn't lift his head when I came in. I called his name. He just blinked at me. his eyes looking strangely dull. The happy light in them was gone. A tiny cold knot of dread started to form in my stomach. I knelt beside him, stroking his fur. He felt limp. He let out a soft whimper. I tried to coax him up, thinking maybe he was just tired, but he struggled to get his legs under him. He was uncoordinated, stumbling like he was drunk. That's when the panic set in. This wasn't just him being tired. Something was terribly wrong. Chloe came running in, and the second she saw him, her face went pale. We helped him get outside, and that's when the sickness truly hit him. He was violently ill over and over again until there was nothing left. He was shaking, weak, and confused. He looked up at me with those big brown eyes, and I could see the pain and the fear. He had no idea what was happening to him, and all he knew was that he wanted us to make it stop. There was no discussion, no hesitation. We were going to the emergency vet. I carried all 75 pounds of him to the car like he was a puppy again, his body limp in my arms. Chloe was in the back with him, stroking his head, her voice a constant soothing murmur that was probably more for her than for him. The 20-minute drive felt like an eternity. Every red light was a personal insult. Every car in front of us was an obstacle to saving our boy's life. I just kept my hands locked on the steering wheel, my knuckles white, whispering, "Hang on, buddy, just hang on. We're almost there." The moment we burst through the doors of the animal hospital, it was a blur of motion. A vet tech whisked him away to the back, and we were left standing under the harsh fluorescent lights of the waiting room, my shirt stained and my heart pounding against my ribs. We filled out paperwork on a clipboard, my hand shaking so badly I could barely write our own address. Then we sat down to wait. The air in an emergency vet clinic has a specific weight to it. It's thick with fear and antiseptic. You sit in uncomfortable chairs trying not to make eye contact with the other people there because you know they're all living their own private horror story just like you. A woman was crying softly into her phone. A man was pacing back and forth, staring at the double doors to the treatment area. Time slows down. Every minute that ticks by on the clock feels like an hour. You're completely helpless. Your family member is in the hands of strangers, and all you can do is wait and pray and try not to think about the worst-case scenario. After what felt like a lifetime, a veterinarian came out to speak with us. She was kind, but her expression was grave. She told us Bruno was in critical condition. His vitals were unstable. They had started him on IV fluids and were running a battery of tests, but they needed our consent to proceed with more aggressive treatments. She started talking about blood panels, toxicology screens, ultrasounds. I just knotted my throat too tight to speak. "Do whatever you have to do," Chloe managed to say, her voice trembling. And then came the other part of the conversation, the part where they hand you an estimate. You're already emotionally shattered, and then they hit you with the financial reality. The sheet of paper she gave us had a high-end estimate of $3,200. For a split second, the number just hangs there in the air, seeming impossibly large. But it's only for a split second, because you look at the doctor and you think about your dog in the back fighting for his life, and the money becomes meaningless. It's just paper. It's just digits on a screen. You don't even think. You just say yes. You sign the form. You hand over your credit card. You'd give them anything. You'd drain your savings. You'd sell your car. You'd do whatever it takes. We waited for hours. Finally, close to midnight, the vet came back. She said they had managed to stabilize him, but he wasn't out of the woods. He would need to stay for at least a couple of days. And then she delivered the news that would change everything. The news that would poison our sense of security forever. "We've gotten the initial lab work back," she said, her voice gentle. "Based on the specific markers of acute kidney failure and the metabolic acidosis, we are certain this was a case of poisoning." The word just hung there in the sterile air. Poisoning. It didn't make any sense. We were so careful. We kept all the cleaners locked up. We didn't have any toxic plants. We never used rat poison. My mind started racing. Did he eat something at the park? A mushroom. Did he lick something off the sidewalk? I asked her, "What kind of poison do you know what it was?" She shook her head. It's hard to say without a more specific panel, which takes time. But the damage is consistent with a number of common toxins. Antifreeze is a possibility. Certain household products. It's impossible to know the source for sure. The source was unknown. We drove home in a silence that was heavier and more suffocating than any argument we'd ever had. The house felt cavernous and empty without Bruno. His water bowl was still on the floor. His favorite squeaky toy was lying by the couch. It was like a museum of a life that had been violently interrupted. We barely slept that night, just lying in the dark, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the phone to ring. When we were finally able to bring him home 2 days later, he was a shadow of his former self. He was weak, subdued, and had to be on a special diet and a cocktail of medications. But he was alive. We were overwhelmed with relief. But that relief was quickly replaced by a creeping, insidious fear. Our home, the place we'd bought together 3 years prior, our sanctuary, it was suddenly a crime scene with an invisible culprit. The vet's words echoed in my head. The source is unknown. I became obsessed. I went through the house and garage with a fine-tooth comb. I checked every bottle under every sink. I scoured the backyard for any sign of something he could have gotten into. I found nothing. Chloe and I retraced our steps from that day over and over. The walk, the park, everything. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The fear began to curdle into a dark suspicion. What if this wasn't an accident? What if he didn't just find something? What if someone gave him something? It was a hideous thought, one that felt paranoid and crazy. But the more I thought about it, the less I could shake it. We lived in a safe neighborhood. We didn't have any enemies. Who would do something so monstrous? The uncertainty was the worst part. Our home no longer felt safe. Every time I let Bruno out in the yard, I watched him like a hawk. Every time a neighbor walked by, I felt a flash of irrational suspicion. The trust we had in our little corner of the world was shattered. We were living in a state of low-grade, constant anxiety. That initial poisoning cost us $3,200. But the true cost was our peace of mind. It was that feeling, that cold, gnawing fear that it could happen again that pushed me to a decision. I couldn't live like this. I couldn't stand the thought of being so vulnerable, so blind to the dangers that might be lurking right under our noses. I had to protect my family. I had to know what was happening inside my own home. And that's when I decided to buy the cameras. It was a simple online order, a 4-unit system of Wise security cameras. Nothing fancy, no complicated wiring, just little white cubes that I could place around the house and monitor from my phone. On October 19th, the box arrived. I spent that evening setting them up. One in the living room focused on the main entry and Bruno's water bowl, one in the kitchen, one facing the back door. The last one I put in the upstairs hallway. I felt a little foolish, like I was giving into paranoia. Chloe watched me, her expression a mixture of sadness and support. She didn't question it. She knew I needed this to feel sane again. For 3 days, nothing happened. I checked the live feeds obsessively from work. I watched Bruno sleep. I watched him wander over to his food bowl. I watched the dust motes dance in the afternoon sun. It was boring. It was normal. And for the first time in a week, I started to breathe a little easier. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it really was just a freak accident, some random toxin he found outside. The thought was a relief. Then came October 22nd. It was a Tuesday. Chloe and I both had to work late. We left around 8 in the morning. Bruno was dozing on his favorite rug. I gave him a pat on the head, checked his water bowl, and we left. I remember checking the camera feed from my desk around lunchtime. Just a quick peek. Bruno was asleep on the couch. Everything was fine. I didn't check it again until the next morning. October 23rd. I woke up early around 6 a.m. while Chloe was still asleep. It had just become a habit, a morning ritual. Make coffee, check the camera archives from the day before. I was just scrolling through the motion-activated clips expecting to see nothing but Bruno stretching or changing sleeping positions. And then I saw it. An alert from 3:15 p.m. the previous day. The thumbnail showed a figure standing in our living room. It wasn't me. It wasn't Chloe. My heart started hammering against my ribs. I tapped the clip to play it full screen. The video was crystal clear. The front door opens and in walks my mother-in-law, Eleanor Vance. She was 58 and always carried herself with a kind of brittle authority. She let herself in with the key Chloe had given her 2 years ago, back when we trusted her to dog sit. She closed the door quietly behind her, and for a moment she just stood there looking around. Bruno, bless his innocent heart, trotted over to her, his tail giving a few hopeful wags. He knew her. He thought she was a friend. She completely ignored him. She didn't pet him. She didn't even look at him. She walked straight past him into the kitchen, disappearing from the living room camera's view. A few seconds later, she came back. In her hand was a small, unlabeled bottle. She moved with a chilling sense of purpose. She walked directly to Bruno's water bowl. The camera was positioned perfectly. I watched my breath caught in my throat as she unscrewed the cap and deliberately, steadily emptied the contents of that little bottle into the water. The liquid was clear. It mixed instantly. She swirled the bowl a little with her finger, then wiped her finger on her pants. Then she just left. She didn't look back at Bruno. She didn't show a flicker of emotion. She just opened the door, stepped out, and closed it behind her. The whole thing took less than 90 seconds. I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. My blood ran cold. I couldn't process it. It was like watching a monster in a movie, except the monster had my wife's last name, and the movie was being filmed in my own living room. It was Eleanor. It had always been Eleanor. The reason Bruno almost died, the reason we spent $3,200, the reason we lived in fear for 2 weeks, was standing right there on my phone screen. I didn't know what to do. I felt sick. I felt a rage so pure and so hot it scared me. I saved the video immediately. I downloaded a copy to my phone, another to my laptop, and then I uploaded it to my cloud storage. Exhibit A. Undeniable. I walked into the bedroom. Chloe was just starting to stir. I sat on the edge of the bed and I couldn't find the words. I just handed her my phone. "You need to see this," I said. My voice sounded strange, hollow. She sat up confused and took the phone. I watched her face as she played the video. I saw the confusion melt into disbelief and the disbelief curdle into horror. Her hand went to her mouth. A choked sob escaped her lips. She watched it a second time and then a third, as if her brain refused to accept what her eyes were seeing. When she finally looked up at me, her face was shattered. It was the look of someone whose world had just been fundamentally broken. There were no questions. There was no denial. There was just the horrifying, silent truth between us. Her mother had tried to poison our dog. We didn't call her. We didn't send her the video. We didn't text her or scream at her. An act like that doesn't deserve a conversation. It doesn't deserve an explanation or a chance to lie. It deserves consequences. By 9 a.m., we were at the police station. We sat with a detective and I played the video for him. He watched it once, his face grim, and then he asked me to airdrop the file to his computer. Chloe, my strong, amazing wife, gave her statement. She confirmed it was her mother, Eleanor Vance. She confirmed the key was given in trust. She confirmed the timeline of the first poisoning. She never wavered. Her voice shook, but it never broke. She was fully and completely on the side of justice, on the side of our family. By noon that same day, October 23rd, Eleanor Vance was arrested at her home. The charge was felony animal cruelty. The moment we got back from the station, I made another call to a 24-hour locksmith. He was at our house within an hour. I stood on the porch and watched as he drilled out every single lock on our exterior doors. The deadbolts, the doorknobs, everything. The sound of that drill was loud and jarring, but to me, it was the sound of us taking our home back. It was the sound of security. It was the sound of Eleanor's key turning into a useless piece of metal. The fallout was immediate and absolute. Chloe called her father to tell him what happened, what his wife had done. The rest of the family exploded into a firestorm of calls and texts. Some tried to make excuses for her. She's just lonely. She was jealous of the dog. She didn't mean for it to go this far. Chloe shut it all down. She made it brutally clear you are either with us or you are with a person who poisons animals. There is no middle ground. As of that day, she became fully estranged from her mother. 2 days later, on October 25th, the district attorney's office filed the formal charges. The substance she used was identified as ethylene glycol, the main ingredient in antifreeze. It's sweet, which draws dogs to it, and lethally effective at destroying their kidneys. Eleanor was released on bail, but the conditions were strict. A temporary restraining order was put in place. She is legally barred from coming within 500 feet of our home, our places of work, me, Chloe, and Bruno. Which brings us to today, October 26th. The house is quiet, it's secure. The locks are new, the cameras are still rolling. Eleanor is out there somewhere, stripped of her key and her access to our lives awaiting trial. The video is airtight. Her own lawyer has probably told her she has no defense. She will face the consequences. But this isn't a story that ends with a party. There's no champagne. The victory here is a quiet, somber thing. It's the feeling I get watching Bruno, who is curled up on his bed right now. He's still on a special diet for his kidneys. He still takes medication every day. He's a living, breathing, tail-wagging reminder of what she did. He's the evidence of her betrayal. But he's also the evidence of our victory. My wife, Chloe, and I went through hell. Our trust in the world and even in our own family was poisoned. But we came out the other side stronger. We chose each other. We built a fortress around our little family of 3. We faced the monster, and we didn't blink. The ultimate victory isn't about revenge. It's not about watching Eleanor's life fall apart, though I won't pretend there isn't a grim satisfaction in knowing justice will be served. The real victory is this. It's looking at my dog, my best friend, who is safe, who is loved, who is alive. We protected him. We saved him. In a world that suddenly felt dangerous and cruel, we made our home safe again. And that is a victory worth more than anything.